Buckeye Talk video version from cleveland.com. Try the texts. Welcome back at your Tuesday Buckeye Talk from cleveland.com. Doug LeMarie. Stephen means Nathan Baird. Nathan, why'd you vote Ohio State number one?
I think they're going to be the best team. I think they're the best collection of talent. I was trying to decide between them and Clemson. I sort of sat down and sketched out position by position which program I thought was ahead right now. And I came up with the Buckeyes. So I think it's going to be those two, and Alabama would have been those two in Alabama, I should say, for the best three programs this year. I want to see a little bit more out of Alabama's quarterbacks before I put them on that top tier. But I think Ohio State, just what it has offensively, what it has in somebody like Shaun Wade on the other side of the ball to kind of help balance things out. That was the best collection of talent this year to start the season from what we know.
I mean, hot. Just came in hot right off the bat. Nathan's like, what? Where's the intro? The AP poll came out on Monday. And so here on the Tuesday Buckeye Talk, that's what we're talking about. 38 first-place votes for Clemson, number one Clemson. 21 first-place votes for number two Ohio State. 2 first-place votes for number 3 Alabama, and then a stray first-place vote for number 6 LSU. So that's 62 voters. I think if we had talked about this when the coaches poll came out a couple weeks previously, I thought if you had 60 voters, like a 35-25 Clemson over Ohio State is where I would have guessed. This is pretty close to that 38-21. As we know, all pollsters are idiots, but AP voters are significantly lower on the idiot scale than the people who do the coaches poll. It's a group of idiots. You have 120 idiots in a room, and then you try to pick out the smartest idiots. And most of them are AP voters. 38-21 on the first place vote, Stephen. About right in your mind? Pretty close? Or do you think Ohio State should have gotten a few more or a few less?
No, I think it's about on point, especially since they played each other at the end of last season, and the most important part of both of those two teams is back, and that's Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. We knew they'd be 1 and 2, so I'm not surprised. Had Ohio State maybe won that game, they'd probably get the 38-21 victory and are the number one team coming into the season. But because they played, you have a little bit more, I guess, things that you can go off of when you're making a decision like this, so no surprise.
Nathan, I enjoyed you talking about the decision. Like, in the end, was it like razor thin for you on picking Ohio State or Clemson as you went through it? Or once you analyzed it and compared everything, of course Clemson in the mix, but was it pretty clear to you that Ohio State was going to get your vote?
No, it was still pretty close. And there's even that voice in the back of your mind that's telling you, well, you see Ohio State more. You talk about them every day. You spend all of your professional life thinking about Ohio State, and there's an inherent bias that sometimes creeps in on that when a team is good or whether a team is bad, that you sometimes steer into that a little bit. So I had that in the back of my mind kind of warning me to make sure I wanted to vote Ohio State number one, as I did last year when I finally moved them to number one, part of the way through the season. And for everything that I thought Ohio State had going for, I thought Ohio State clearly has the better offensive line this year, but I think Clemson, at least on paper, has the better defensive line going into this year. We'll see how that turns out. Ohio State, I think, a little bit more security at cornerbacks. Clemson maybe a little bit more security at safety. Just little things like that were balancing everything out. I did eventually give, Ohio State the edge at quarterback, and it's a slim one, but I thought Justin Fields just had a better year last year than Trevor Lawrence, so I'm giving them the edge in that going into the year. I called wide receiver a wash, and that's another area, though, that I think might trend in Ohio State's favor just because of the Justin Ross injury. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I guess it wasn't a coin toss, but Clemson's right there. Ohio State's right there. I don't think you can pick either of those top two teams right now and be wrong, and really I think you could probably pick Alabama, as a couple people did, and not be wrong. I think you are wrong if you picked LSU, though. Sorry.
So Clemson had 1,520 points. Ohio State had 1,504 points. And then, there's a decent drop to Alabama, 1,422 points. So that's a pretty big gap. And then an even bigger gap to Georgia, 1,270 at number 4. So Clemson only 16 points ahead of Ohio State. They got 17 more first-place votes. They were 16 points ahead overall. I think that's a it's not a surprise, Stephen, with how much we've talked about quarterbacks, but I think we all think Alabama's pretty close. I think it's a somewhat of a significant acknowledgement for Ohio State that there's a pretty clear top two, right? That they're right on Clemson's heels, and then Bama, Bama only got a handful of first place votes. That it's not really a top three with the way people are viewing it right now. There's a pretty clear top two in college football, the way people analyze this in the preseason.
Yeah, there are clearly two teams and we just know more about them. As Nathan said, first of all, between Mac Jones and their freshman quarterback, we just haven't seen it yet. So you can't automatically stamp that Alabama, even with the angry Alabama theory, you can't just automatically stamp that, okay, yeah, this is going to be a national championship contending team just because we haven't seen what the quarterback play looks like. With the other two teams, we know they're good and we've seen what they had to offer.